Good evening. On the news tonight. Virus splits mama mbogas. Proprietors of mini groceries in the city exude lukewarm reception to a government directive barring them from chopping vegetables for their customers. It is a welcome directive for some and a major business hurdle for others. City dwellers too are divided in opinion over the directive. Also tonight, WAIGURU all-star duels. Senators engage in an acrimonious debate over the mode of interrogating Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru's impeachment. The House finally settled for an 11-member committee through a vote. The committee will now probe the allegations leveled against Waiguru before deciding her fate. Plus, perilous time for girls. School-going teenage girls face a bigger threat than COVID-19. Some may never go back to school after they became pregnant during the COVID-19 stay-at-home period. We will tell you how poor families are struggling to keep their girls safe from both fronts.
This is TV47 News Tonight with Abubakar Abdullahi.
TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi, begins right now. Anne Wairimu is our sign language interpreter to our top story. Now, the government has restricted vegetable vendors from chopping vegetables for their customers to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Most of these traders, usually referred locally as mama mbogas, are finding this directive unfavorable, foreseeing a decline in their businesses. Mwangi Maina tells us more.
At Kangemi Estate here in Nairobi, it is a beehive of activities. Small-scale vegetable vendors are busy preparing vegetables as they wait for prospective customers. The government's directive stopping them from chopping vegetables for their customers has not gone down well with a majority of them. They say they risk losing many customers who prefer buying their vegetables ready for cooking.
Sasa tulikuwa na makastoma wenye wanatupigia simu kama wako kazini tunatengeneza mboga, alafu wanakuja tu wanazichukua kama tumetengeneza. Sasa hii kama hao customer tuwapati, tunangojea mwenye anakuja mmoja mmoja tunamchagulia juu. Sasa mtu hawezi kuchagulia mwenyewe.
Kinunua mboga kama tuseme sahi ya 50 bob, unafunga upate faida ya mbao ama 50 bob. Na ibaki juu sasa mtu ni ngumu sana kuchukua yenye jakato.
However, there is a number of them supporting the government's directive, saying it will make their work easier as well as reducing exposure to the coronavirus.
Na wale wateja ambao labda hawajui katakata mboga kwao
Watajifundisha.
Many of these traders are complaining that their customers are not adhering to the COVID-19 containment measures, yet they are still selling to them. Cash transactions is a norm here, and traders are not restricting customers from sorting the vegetables.
Ununua carrot ama cabbage ama boga ama guashe na uone yule mama ambaye anakuuzia hana mask na hakuna mtu alisema ati unawe mkono, hakuna sanitizer, na wewe unachukua hiyo mboga na mboga hiyo ujui ni nani alikuwa ameshika hapo mbeleni.
Ndam zinawaambia waoge mikono, wengine wanakasirika wanaacha nyanya, na wakimaliza kuchukua nyanya, mimi kwanza ni tuseme nimeshika hizi nyanya nimerudisha huko, nimesipanga tena na make sure nimeoga mikono.
On the other hand, most traders insist that customers have to sanitize or wash hands before they touch the vegetables. However, a spot check on many stalls shows a grim picture. They lack sanitizers and water for washing hands.
Before you touch even just a single fruit, I have this banner. Leave alone this sanitizer. I have water at least, lakini sanitizer is not over yet, so you can sanitize before you touch. Now you can just come from nowhere, then you start, then even I don't need your cash.
The government has ordered the traders to sell their vegetables on raised stalls, and many are in the race to adhere to this directive.
As the government continues to impose more measures to combat the spread of coronavirus, some Kenyans, especially the small-scale traders, will find it difficult to adapt to some of these measures, with them saying that some of these measures are not favorable to them. reporting for TV47 from Kangemi in Nairobi. My name is Mwangi Maina.
Now, the government has announced the extension of operation hours for restaurants from 4 p.m. in the evening to 7:30 p.m. Health CS Mutahi Kagwe has said this comes as a result of the owners adhering to containment measures following the reopening of restaurants last month, as most restaurant owners and operators in the country have since welcomed the move. David Mudoka tells us more.
It is yet another reprieve for restaurants in the country after the Health Ministry Tuesday gave the green light to extend their closure hours from 4 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. A move that has been received with open arms by hoteliers as they remain optimistic to revamp their gains. Njeri is a waiter at Smart Joint Center within the city.
To us, ni advantage. Juu at least customer wenye walikuwa wanakuja hiyo time bado wanakuja. Juu walikuwa wanakuja before wanaogopa kafi wakuji. So this time juu kafi imeextendiwa at least wanakam. Sasa tunatarajia wengine karibu 50 juu hiyo kafi imeextendiwa. Ambapo tunatarajia mengi at least tukiongeza chakula maybe.
According to Health CS Mutahi Kagwe, the decision to adjust closure hours follows consultations that revealed restaurants that have since reopened in the country have toed the line on matters containment measures. However, bars and entertainment joints will remain shut.
Public health officials in their respective areas are required to ensure that these guidelines are complied with. They are further required to conduct regular inspection of the facilities, and any operator found not to follow the guidelines will have their licenses and certificates to operate withdrawn permanently.
Mutahi says waiters and other workers in restaurants will have time to beat the 9 p.m. curfew under the new readjustments.
This will allow the workers in restaurants, most of whom are actually being housed by the restaurant owners themselves within the hotels, but it will allow enough time.
This as the total number of infections in the country reached 3,860, with one fatality recorded in the past 24 hours.
Now, in yet another bid by the government to return to normalcy, hotels continue to benefit, with the government now extending closing hours from 4 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. David Mudoka, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, David, for that report. Elsewhere, Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru's case will now be prosecuted by an 11-member committee. 45 senators have voted in favor, with party politics and affiliation shaping the voting. And as Elizabeth Mutuku now reports, the committee has 10 days to prosecute Waiguru's case and table a report in the House.
Mr. Speaker, point of order, Mr. Speaker. It is very wrong. Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
After heated debate, the Senate has now settled on an 11-member committee to prosecute Kirinyaga governor's case. 45 senators voted in favor of the committee against 14 senators who opposed the motion.
The nays 14, the ayes 45. So
members to serve in the ad hoc committee include Senators Abshiro Ahalake, Mike Mbito, Mwangi Githiomi, Beth Mugo, Anwar Oloitiptip, Philip Mpayei, Cleophas Malala, Beatrice Kwamboka, Stewart Mazayo, Judith Pareno, and Moses Kajang.
To hold its sitting on Tuesday, 23rd June 2020, morning starting from 10 a.m. and ending at 12:30 p.m.
The senators opposed to the select committee are claiming the committee might be compromised.
The people of the Republic of Kenya want plenary. Mr. Speaker, it doesn't matter what the outcome of the process will be. Speaker, the people of Kirinyaga have all along the week suspected that, Mr. Speaker, there is a decision already made elsewhere to form a committee to save Waiguru.
No, order.
Then Senator Orengo goes public, Mr. Speaker, to confirm.
It looks like the die is cast, but I can tell the people of Kirinyaga, going the committee way, the verdict is known. Watch this piece.
Intense lobbying has been happening, with the party politics playing a major role in shaping the fate of Waiguru. The Jubilee Party was already divided on the vote.
That head is not for Salome. That head is for somebody. Waiguru's head is being asked for not by the county assembly. I can tell you, and I have the evidence. The people who are looking for Waiguru's head is not the
Point
county
of order,
assembly.
Mr. Speaker.
I cannot support the insistence. I cannot support the insistence, Mr. Speaker, that you must go the Kirinyaga way.
The committee has 10 days to prosecute Waiguru's petition and present a conclusive report before the House.
I therefore direct that the committee commences their work immediately and report back within 10 days.
Waiguru was impeached by Kirinyaga County Assembly, who accused her of various charges including gross misconduct, abuse of office, and manipulating the public procurement procedures. She is also accused of illegally conferring a benefit of 10 million to herself for travel allowance. Already the Senate having decided to go the committee route, now it's just a matter of time to see whether Governor Waiguru is exonerated or not. Elizabeth Muchiko, TV47, Palm Buildings, Nairobi.
Elsewhere, the judiciary is in the process of enhancing its operations after they were suspended on the 16th of March this year to curb the spread of coronavirus. The new changes are coming in the wake of a stalemate between the judiciary and the executive, with all the blame directed at President Uhuru Kenyatta for derailing operations of the judiciary. Eli Logova reports.
After resumption of court operations Monday, the judiciary has initiated new measures to streamline and improve efficiency as the court faces a bulk of cases to handle. Through a letter by the Registrar of Judiciary, Ann Amadi, filing of cases will now be done through electronic system effective July 1st, 2020. These changes in the courts come in the midst of a standoff between the judiciary and the executive. Now Kenya Party leader Martha Karua and the Law Society of Kenya have now thrown their weight behind the judiciary, accusing President Uhuru Kenyatta of hampering the operations of the judiciary.
Down to resolve the issues, but where the matter has gone as far as court orders, unless if there is an order of stay, then orders must be obeyed by all. The Attorney General had a chance to defend the government in court. If the court did not agree with him and he was aggrieved, he's at liberty to appeal and to ask for stay.
As soon as that was done and came in the administration of President Uhuru Kenyatta, several attempts were made to interfere with the independence of the judiciary. The first attempt, you remember, was the refusal to appoint judges who had been recommended for.
President Uhuru Kenyatta has been on the receiving end for failing to appoint the 41 judges who were proposed by the Judicial Service Commission last year. President Uhuru Kenyatta holds that the integrity of some of the judges is questionable. Eli Logova, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Eli Logova, for that report. 13 minutes past the hour. Time for us to take a short break here on TV47 News Tonight. With me, Abubakar Abdullahi. We'll be back with more news after this break. Welcome back. Thank you for choosing to stay with us. More than the news, remember TV47 News Tonight is all about ideas, debates and challenges, of course, setting the pace for what has happened, what will happen prospectively tomorrow in as far as politics and current affairs is concerned. And let's bring in our guest tonight, Evans Wafula, a political commentator who joins us on the broadcast. Evans, good evening. Thank you for making time for us. First,
good evening.
Senate chose to go the select committee way, which means it is 11-member committee that will hear this case out. First, are the people of Kirinyaga, in your own view, happy tonight?
I think the people of Kirinyaga are a little bit conflicted when it comes to this issue. Remember when they were electing or voting for WAIGURU, a lot of people perceived that this was actually unacceptable. I mean, the governor had been faced with some allegations when she was at the NYS, when she was a minister, and then you know what happened in NYS. So I think Kirinyaga County has been perceived as a crime scene in terms of corruption. And I think whether they are happy or not happy, I think they said, and I remember Kirinyaga people saying that they are content. They are the ones who have elected the governor, and it was democratic.
You say the county is perceived to be a corruption hotspot. How much of that perception has led to this ouster itself?
I think not much has contributed in terms of this. I think what has happened in Kirinyaga all along is that there has been internal politics, a lot of politicking internally. But I think this has also spilled into the bigger political scene where you find, of course, Tangatanga and Kieleweke. And you know, WAIGURU aligned herself with the other group that is actually the Kieleweke group. So I think the politics that is happening in Kirinyaga goes beyond corruption. Because I think corruption is an issue that they knew very well, that even when they were electing the governor, issues of integrity were very obvious. But they went ahead and elected the governor, and they actually affirmed that that was their democratic right. So we have to...
And Evans, just to be clear, even though there were charges presented against the governor when she was the head of the NYS, she has not been fully charged in a court of law.
And exactly, even now when we are speaking about the current allegations, I mean, this is a situation where we have many governors, I think quite a number of governors who have faced corruption allegations. And this country has lost a lot of billions. And many people seem not to have actually been even been arrested or even been charged. So I think there's a lot of politics that is playing in what is happening in Kirinyaga as opposed to the real issue of dealing with corruption. And that is why then the politics of the two political divide comes to play. And that is what we have witnessed today. I think
and the two political divides, I suppose you mean the divides within the Jubilee Party?
Absolutely, the Kieleweke and Tangatanga. Remember what has happened, what has been happening is that, you remember, WAIGURU is she's actually the point person for the BBI in that region. And you see, she already aligned herself with the group that is perceived to be of course, the Kieleweke group. And what the changes we have been seeing happening, or the onslaught that has been going on from the National Assembly to the Senate, has actually been the political animosity that has been going on is what is playing here. I think if there were issues of corruption that were supposed to be addressed, I think there was many senators were not there genuinely, and I think that is why they have lost it, and it has been moved to the committee.
All right, Evans. The last impeachment case that the Senate, the motion that was presented before the Senate, of course, resulted into the governor being impeached. That in reference being Kiambu governor, the former Kiambu governor, Ferdinand Waititu. If one is to ask what would have warranted a deviation from the same standards, from a full house hearing to a select committee hearing, what will probably the answer be?
Remember when Waititu was being impeached, we didn't have a very divided Senate, or a divided National Assembly for that matter. But
divided along which lines, Evans?
Divided along, I repeat, divided along the Kieleweke, pro-Kieleweke, and the Tangatanga group inside the Senate. Because look at what happened to, for example, to Murkomen. I think the alignment and the coming of KANU into the divide of Kieleweke proper, and many other people, and seeing what is happening, that I think there's political realignment within the Senate. And that political realignment within the Senate is what we witnessed today. Because what is happening today, and I'll tell you from a political position, is that any motion that would have come through to impeach Waiguru would be perceived as a victory for William Ruto. This is the political game that is happening in the Senate.
All right, Evans, there are those who hold the view that it's not necessarily the divisions within Jubilee, but rather a NASA, if not an ODM rescue mission that rescued her.
But look, I think the people are saying NASA is not a rescue mission. It is because it is the political dividend that NASA has actually been able to yield in the Senate. Look at Jubilee pro Tangatanga Jubilee members plus NASA and KANU members. This is a formidable post within the Senate, and as a matter of fact, and that is what has played. That's what we've seen. We've seen even the composition of the committee. It's very clear that there's a divide in the Senate, and I think what was going on there is that people who have been removed from the Senate, for example, the removal of Murkomen and coming in of Kangata, they were very clear that any government agenda that comes before the Senate must be supported overwhelmingly by people who are aligned to a certain section of the political divide. So I think politics played more than the questions that we are supposed to address of integrity, the issues of corruption. So,
all right, Evans, point made. Let me bring in Areba Omoyo, who joins us on Skype as well, a lawyer by profession. Areba, good evening. Good to see you. Evans says that it is more politically driven impeachment than it is on substance.
Good evening, Abu. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Areba. I'm asking, there are those who say that it is the political unity or disunity politically amongst members in the Senate that played a huge role in this impeachment motion. What is your view on that?
I think I fully agree that what we saw today was more like the political inclinations, more like the political unity, as you have put it, and disunity of different factions. I was very shocked to see an issue like trying to move a motion for extension of time, bringing in a sharp division within the senators. And you could clearly see that the battle lines had been drawn. And from the word go, nobody seemed to be interested in trying to discuss the merits of why Governor Waiguru was being impeached. It was more like a power show on who has the more numbers than others in the Senate.
Areba, is it not then a problem that a house that prides itself as being the upper house forgoes the very motion and the details?
I saw a very interesting point today that initially the Senate had pride in itself that it was this house that had substance. But as time has gone by, it has deteriorated and also been balkanized into some kind of factions which you cannot be able to explain. And this is a slap on the face. During the 2012 to the 2017 term, we saw the Senate coming out as that house that was dependable and that house that always used to have a lot of substance when it used to discuss a lot of issues. Today, it was more of a shouting match, more like a power show, more like trying to outshine each other. And that is quite unfortunate that the Senate is really degenerating down fast on that route.
Areba, there are those who hold the view that the disagreement to the decision that was made by the Senate today and the jittery that has been caused by that is equally because of individuals' political stand. It's not necessarily objectively pegged on the freedom of the Senate to make a rational decision.
I've already alluded to that, Abubakar, and I've said that what we saw today was more like a power struggle and a power show.
Between who and who?
Might. It was more between the people. You saw the faction led by my good friend Senator Murkomen and the other faction which was ODM and other senators. You can really put it like the faction led by Tanga and the Kieleweke plus ODM faction. That is my opinion towards that. But then it's quite disappointing that now we are not looking at the substance as to why the Waiguru was being impeached. I mean, it's a power struggle. It's more like a show of might. So the people of Kirinyaga are not likely to get justice, as I might put it.
Even though the select committee is supposed to hear this case and make a judgment on it.
Abubakar, what quacks like a duck and smells like a duck and walks like a duck is definitely a duck. So I mean, we have...
Areba, you are a lawyer by profession. The very preamble of that profession is innocent till found guilty, isn't it? We can't prosecute and charge.
I understand that. But then, Abubakar, we have to differentiate between political problems and legal problems. I have been on record by saying that sometimes we try to apply legal solutions for political problems, and it necessarily does not work. What we saw in the Senate today is more like a political process. As much as it's supposed to be to some angle a legal process, more politics took center stage. And at the end of the day, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. Governor Waiguru has her term to complete. Watch this space.
All right, let me bring in Evans to the discussion. Again, Evans, of course, is a political commentator as well and is with us in this discussion. Evans, is it not harsh judgment to render over the select committee and to probably even hint of what their decision will be? Or is it as black and white as it seemingly to some is?
I think once this thing goes to the Senate, to the committee, it's already a done deal. I mean, as the thing here is that Waiguru has a term to finish. If you don't impeach a governor on the floor of the House, then there is no any other place you can be able to do that. Because so I think this was very well calculated. I think the opportunity for the people of Kirinyaga to be able to cleanse their, as I said before in the beginning, Kirinyaga County has been perceived by many people as a scene of crime. And I think that opportunity is gone. And I think once the lesson I think that we learned today is that I think even the assembly needed to have actually seen this before.
Evans, let me ask you this. If this was a motion presented to the Senate with two logical possibilities out, why is there a fury when Senate decides on one end?
And I think it's just a formality. I mean, the process has to continue the way it's written in the books. I think it's not the actual product of what is going to happen from the Senate, from the committee, is already known. It's out there. It's in the public gallery. So I think we need to be very sincere. Remember, even from Waiguru's own statement, is that the motion was ill-timed. There was also issues that it was in contempt of court. So I think we need to be very clear that the politics that has been playing in Kirinyaga that almost slipped into the assembly to the Senate today is what we have been seeing today in what we witnessed today. But politically speaking, is that the opportunity to be able to put things right is lost.
All right, Areba, the last case that the Senate, of course, dealt with in as far as impeachment is concerned is a case that was involved in the then Kiambu governor, Ferdinand Waititu, which the entire House made its own judgment in a full sitting. What may have warranted a change of tune?
Abubakar, you see that this is where our conversation begins, that the very people who supported the trial of Waititu in the full House are the same people who are rooting for the Kirinyaga governor to be tried at the committee stage. Then you ask yourself, what has really changed? I mean, it's the same circumstances, it's the same case. What has really changed? The main reason why is that once a matter goes on trial before the committee stage, and the committee makes its recommendation, then to overturn the committee's recommendation, I think you need at least 2/3 of the House, and it's quite a challenge to achieve that. So normally the committee's decision, it's more like a final decision, and I mean, I don't want to cast aspersions at the House, but then there is the conversation that it's easier to influence a committee of 11 people rather than the whole House. And we have seen before committees absolving governors of blame. But when it comes to the whole House trying a governor, it looks more quote-unquote objective. And that is why quite a number of people are rooting for the whole House.
Areba, there are those who argue from the point of view that if you are doubting a select committee of the Senate, what trust then will people have in the committees of the Senate in as far as making independent judgments are concerned?
Abubakar, we were not born yesterday. We have been around.
I haven't said that, Areba.
And we have been quite around for some time, and we have seen the way committees of parliament handle issues. We have seen them bungling reports. So, I mean, it's not a new issue to us. And at times, the conversation that the whole House might quite be objective rather than 11 people still stands ground. And I mean, if I was a senator, I would have voted for Waiguru to appear before the whole House.
All right, Areba Omoyo, a lawyer by profession, a frequent commentator, of course, on politics, and Evans Wafula, a political commentator as well. Gentlemen, thank you for making time for us tonight.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
All right, of course, that discussion was pegged on what happened at the floor of the Senate today. Of course, the motion of impeachment against Anne Waiguru now in the hands of 11-member select committee of the Senate. Of course, we will be expected to table a report before the House, and upon adoption, then that will guide on whether the impeachment will stand or not. Time for us to take a short break as well. We still have a lot lined up for you. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back. Let's get to more news now. As Kenya joined the rest of the world in marking the Day of the African Child today, it's clear that children are among the most affected group in the COVID-19 pandemic. The closure of schools, the threat of coronavirus infection, and early pregnancies are just but a few of the challenges parents are dealing with in these hard times. And as Zainab Mohammed now explains, lack of proper measures by the government on children's safety might just result in a lasting effect to children even after the pandemic.
It's midday. We arrive at Miriam's house in Kasarani. Miriam, not her real name, receives us with a smile on her face. But this smile does not last for long, as Miriam is full of sorrow. Just 3 months since the closure of schools, Miriam's daughter is pregnant. It is a situation that truly saddens the mother of 5, as she says this would not have happened if her daughter was still in school.
Ile ya kuambiwa tu abruptly, no more school. Sasa hiyo ndio ilichangia watoto wengi, sio wangu peke yake. Hata nikitembea huku nje, huwa naangalia watoto nasema kia Mungu, Mungu si aturehemu.
As we speak to Miriam, her 18-year-old daughter walks in. Mary, not her real name, explains to us how the fear of early pregnancy had her opting for suicide.
Nilikuwa naona tu ni kama mimi ni laana tu kwa familia yangu. Juu sister yangu hajasoma, mimi pia ndo namaliza form 4 na mimba. nikitembea tu watu wananipoint. Nikona ngatu mimi laana kwa familia yetu. Sengine nakanga tu chini nasema hadi singezaliwa.
Mary and her siblings lack access to online learning despite 2 of the 5 children being candidates for the national examinations.
Siku nilionanga tu kwa news babu yule anafundishanga. Sasa nilikuwa natamani ningetu hadi ningekuanga nayo, ningekuwa na simu ya internet. Nione hadi venye anafundisha. Kwa sababu sisi hadi hakuna hadi pesa. Hakuna pale mtu hata simu hadi mtu hawezi nunua. Simu mamangu tu ndo anakuanga nayo. Na yake pia ingiangi internet.
Miriam also tells us the danger her children have been facing due to her inability to afford masks.
Siwezi taka kupoteza mtoto wangu ambaye nimetunza hizi miaka zenye ameishi duniani kwa kitu kidogo tu chenye ningemwambia nawa mkono hapo. Cheza hapa ama usicheze pale.
Veronica Mwangi, the Deputy Director at Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, says lack of proper guidelines in children protection during this COVID-19 pandemic puts them at a higher risk.
Despite we as a country facing this COVID-19 pandemic 3 to 4 months down the road now, we have not had a specific child protection guideline or different measures which have been put in place to safeguard children from the impact of COVID-19, but also to safeguard them with the understanding that children are vulnerable.
According to Veronica, police stations are recording a high number of sexual violence cases prior to the pandemic, with many lacking the right access to justice.
The National Council of Administration of Justice, in their directives given on matters access to justice, there was little or no mention on access to justice for children in Kenya. So again, something that then also comes in to bring the challenge of really also denying the children the opportunity to follow up on access to justice despite COVID-19. And again, lack of that particular coordination at the council, which has really brought about a broken chain on access to justice for children. It has also affected the referral pathways. That is, if a case is reported at the community level, there is no clarity as to how this case is going to be taken up. And noting also the fact that the cases which were given prioritization, including children, most of them also there has been use of virtual processes which children have not been supported formally to engage in, because children really can be scared about technology. When you appear before a computer and you are told this is how you are going to speak to the judge or speak to the magistrate or speak to someone else, it then again, it can easily impact on the access to justice for that particular child.
This is one among many sad stories of the challenges faced by an African child during this COVID-19 period. And now it is up to the government to come to their rescue before it's too late. For TV47, I'm Zainab Mohammed.
Thank you, Zainab Mohammed, for that report. Elsewhere, 4 months down the line after a tragic stampede at Kakamega Primary School that claimed the lives of 14 pupils, and the parents of the deceased are back to the school with painful memories of their little angels. Mulinde Keri interacted with a few of them just to understand how they are coping.
The afternoon of February 3rd, the unexpected happened at Kakamega Primary School. A tragic stampede claimed 14 pupils in grade 4 and grade 5. The memories of the lost pupils still vivid in their minds.
Wengine wadogo walikuwa wamemzoea sana dada yao, alikuwa ni kama mama kwao. So maisha imekuwa ni ngumu, unapata hata mwingine akilala usiku saa zingine anashtuka, anaita ule marehemu kwa usingizi. So maisha hajakuwa rahisi, saa zingine mchana hata wakicheza wakifika mahali mtoto anakaa na boeka anza kufikiria dada yake. Mimi nikiona uniform ya Kakamega Primary na feel huzuni, naona ni kama naona mtoto wangu.
Fact hata bila hiyo kuna advert Citizen, in case anything to do with education, wanaleta hiyo picha ya Kakamega Primary. Then naona sura ya mtoto wangu tu inaniumiza.
Some are yet to come to terms with the tragedy that claimed 14 pupils.
Huyo mtoto alikuwa ni kama everything to me. She was like everything to me. So life on my side haijakuwa kawaida. Nafikiria mtoto.
Watoto wetu hawa walikuwa watoto ambao walikuwa innocent. Kama mlikuwa na hatia na sisi mngetua sisi wenyewe kushinda kuua watoto wetu. As for me, mlishanimaliza, mliua roho yangu, mkaua rafiki yangu, mkanimaliza kibiashara.
Niko na uchungu. Mr. Magoha kuja hapa na kusema tusahau yaliyopita. What does that mean? Wewe utalea mtoto peleka shuleni arudi kama amekufa, utuambie tusahau yaliyopita. Mr. Magoha, kuwa na utu, kuwa kama binadamu. Hisi uchungu wenye mwenzako anasikia wakati amepoteza.
The parents were hopeful the recent visit by Education CS at the school would give them answers to their questions. Education CS George Magoha was in school on Sunday.
But till now tumengoja mpaka saa hizi hakuna chochote kimetolewa.
But mimi nashangaa waziri mzima profesa anakuja Kakamega Primary ambapo mwanahabari akamuuliza, "Je, ile ripoti ambayo ulipromise kwa hii shule utapeana baada ya siku 15 imefikia wapi?" Akasema hakuna ripoti iliyopewa, itatolewa. Atio kama Kenya ingelikuwa inafuatilia historia, Kenya ingekuwa imefika mahali penye imefika hapa sasa hivi.
Fat you Magoha, wewe ni mwanaume ambao umekoma. Nilifikiria wewe ni mtu mwenye umekoma ambao umezeeka, uko na watoto wajukuu, utafeel vile sisi tunafeel. I'm sorry to tell you this, Mr. Magoha, and I'm sorry, see me well. Niko mchanga sana, hata mzee wangu alikufa miaka za kitambo. Mtoto mwenye amebaki ni kila kitu changu, ameniondoka bila hata kujua. Kazi iliniishia. Sisi tulileta watoto wetu kwa shule wakiwa wazima. Tunataka mioyo ya watoto wetu ikiwa hai, ama twende tufufue hizo majeneza, tuwaletee hapa, mturudishe watoto wetu.
The pain of losing a child is always borne by the parent. Parents here in Kakamega Primary are bitter that Magoha has never released an official report of what transpired in this school. Mulindi Kerry, TV47 in the county of Kakamega.
Elsewhere, Kenya hopes to be voted for a non-permanent member of the Security Council tomorrow. Despite the African Union endorsing Kenya for the post, Djibouti is still on the race to replace South Africa. And as Joash Onsare now reports, the vote for the UN's most powerful organ will be conducted virtually.
The African Union has endorsed Kenya for the UN's powerful organ, United Nations Security Council's vote scheduled for Wednesday. Kenya will be facing India, Mexico, Canada, Ireland, Norway and Djibouti. However, the race has been described as a race between two African countries, Kenya and Djibouti. Djibouti has refused to step down for Kenya, despite the African Union endorsing Kenya. Former Foreign Affairs CS and the current Defense CS, Monica Juma, says Kenya is committed, promise consistency, and will bring proven competencies and experience in regional and international peace and security to the Council. Kenya and Djibouti have been pulling from different sides for a while now. In February last year, at the African Union Summit, Kenya accused Djibouti of being dishonorable. Djibouti has been insisting to be Africa's legitimate candidate. Kenya considers this matter no longer solely about the candidature, but about the values and principles we have all chosen to abide by. Kenya, therefore, distances itself from any campaign that brings dishonor and disrepute to African Union and any of its member states. Kenya is pushing for the position in promising to build bridges, enhance regional peace and security, peacekeeping and support operations. The government further says it will push for countering terrorism and prevention of violent extremism, human action, justice, human rights and democracy, and fight for women, peace and security. Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
Let's cross borders now, and Rwanda on Monday, June 15th, reported 30 new COVID-19 cases, bringing the tally of confirmed cases to 612 since mid-March, when the country registered her first case. Diana Iriza reports from Kigali, Rwanda.
Rwanda reported new cases on June 16th, bringing the total confirmed cases to 612 and the active cases to 172. According to the Ministry of Health, new cases are Rusizi and Rusumo clusters, as well as repatriated Rwandans. So far, 338 patients have recovered from the pandemic, including 6 who recovered on Monday. The last 3 days have been the highest ever, with Saturday recording 31 cases, Sunday leading with 41 new cases, and on Monday 30 cases. The Ministry of Health indicates that it is mostly because they increased general testing in the most affected areas, Rusizi notably. We spoke to a few local residents to hear their thoughts on the new coronavirus wave in Rwanda and how going back to a lockdown would affect the country.
We came up from a big problem. People were not having food to eat. That's why the government came up with the issue of easing the lockdown. But we realized that the lockdown still, the easing the lockdown, the disease is not going down as we expected that maybe. And we realized that we are shooting up in the numbers of cases. So in my suggestion, I think the better solution that the government might come with is that maybe we start mass testing of testing everyone as it was done in other countries. We saw take an instance like South Korea. South Korea, they were not in lockdown, but what the government did was to ensure that each and everyone was tested.
I don't wish to go back to the lockdown because our businesses are running smoothly, like transportation is also good. Yeah, but if cases, if cases, keep rising, I think the government will take such measures to control and prevent the citizens from, falling victims of coronavirus. Yeah, but I don't wish and I don't think the lockdown is necessary.
Of course, they are going to be affected economically because businessmen who give tax are not going to get money because they are not working. And even other people who are working are not going to get salary because they are not working because we are in lockdown. So I think we can take measures, those measures that we've been taking, and we keep maintaining them instead of going back to lockdown. That's my suggestion.
According to the Rwanda Biomedical Center, Rwanda is currently carrying out an assessment that will establish whether the resumption of the interprovincial movements and passenger taxi motor services have had an impact on the prevalence of COVID-19 in the country.
This is a particular group that is highly mobile and transport a lot of people in a very short timelines. That's why the risks have been assessed at different times. As Rwanda Biomedical Center and Ministry of Health, we've been conducting different surveys, both to the clients, potential clients of the motorcycles and drivers themselves. As we speak, we've been testing a number of them randomly to see if there are no virus moving or circulating in those groups.
Let's get to the world of sports now, and Kenya Pipeline women volleyball head coach Paul GITAU'S says it's time for his team to reassert its position at the top of the sport in the country and in the region. GITAU'S spoke exclusively to TV47's Julius Juma, and now is his report.
Ni kutafuta fanbase. Fanbase. Mimi ningetaka ikifika mwakani Februari, mashabiki wale wako nchini wa volleyball wale wakiongea maneno ya timu ya Pipeline.
That is Kenya Pipeline women volleyball team head coach Paul GITAU giving a snippet of his goals when his first year at the helm of the club lapses. Pipeline have over the years lost their characteristic cutting edge with massive player exits to rival clubs like KCB and Kenya Prisons, hitting them even harder. But GITAU opines it is time for the club to restore its lost glory in Kenya and beyond.
Pale itakuwa vita kubwa. Unajua kama umeondolewa na unataka kurudi, hauwezi funguliwa mlango. Hauwezi. Mimi nakuambia ndugu yangu, hakuna mtu atakufungulia mlango atiingia ulikuwa ndani. Ni wewe ufungue mlango, kwa lazima uingie. Otherwise watakufungia nje tena vile tu walifunga. Unajua hata sasa wamefunga.
In an exclusive interview with TV47 Sports Desk, GITAU, who has previously coached the national women volleyball team Malkia Strikers, revealed that the club is in the process of putting a stop to player exodus to rival clubs.
Ujue, sisi tumekufunza mpira utuchezee kwa muda huu. Kampuni ingine ikikutaka katika hii muda wetu haujaisha, wewe na kampuni yako mutulipe pesa hii ndiye na sisi tuweze kutafuta player mwingine tuwe na pesa ya kumulipa.
GITAU was handed a 3-year deal in January this year, replacing Margaret Indakala.
Na ile kampuni decide ni mimi. Na mimi naye decide ni hiyo kampuni. Yangu ni kwamba mimi nitafanya lolote nifanyalo, lolote naweza ku make sure ile timu ya Pipeline imepata some grip again, to go back to the top, to remain at the top, and to start winning matches.
Before, the country was ravaged with the novel coronavirus and sporting activities halted. Pipeline were readying up for the new season without the services of skipper Triza Tuka and her assistant Naomi To, who are both nursing long-term injuries. Reporting for TV47, I'm Julius Juma.
Elsewhere, Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta is optimistic that Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang will sign is where we will have to end the bulletin tonight. That brings us to the end of tonight's edition of TV47 News Tonight. With me, Abubakar Abdullahi, on behalf of the entire team that made this production possible. Bye for now, and enjoy the rest of our programs.
Welcome to the exciting world of M-Truck Solutions, your trusted provider for bulk SMSs. We also offer API integrations for all your communication and payment needs. We also provide you with tailor-made